One of the things I try to avoid on this show is to be hyperbolic. And when people are going crazy about something and it's really no big deal, I try to just say, this is really not that big of a deal. Let's talk about it, but let's talk about it in sort of sober and reasonable terms. But that is very much not the case when it comes to the peril that is on the horizon if Republicans were to win the 2022 midterm elections in what are just a few months now, quite frankly. And when I say democracy is in jeopardy if Republicans take the House in 2022, I say it with the caveat that this is not a hyperbolic claim. And increasingly, I mean, the bad thing is that democracy is in peril if Republicans win. The good thing is increasingly people are understanding this peril and this risk. Republicans and Democrats, who are so similar on so many issues, we've talked about it before. Here's a whole bunch of issues on which there's really no significant difference between Republicans and Democrats. How could it be that if Republicans take one chamber of Congress, it would have such a major impact? And the answer is that it is because of the destructive potential that the series of events that could be unleashed by Republicans taking control of the House is so significant that it could be the catalyst for a disaster for democracy. And let's just think it through. First, we know that Republicans see their 2020 failure as a failure to steal the election. What I mean by that is when you hear Republicans talk about 2020, most of them, I mean, okay, Mitt Romney's the exception. Liz Cheney's the exception. But for the most part, when you hear Trump, people associated with the Trump White House, the more weaponized Republicans in the House and Senate, when they talk about what happened in 2020, their view is we just didn't do enough to take the election from the guy who won it. They don't think, next time we should really win by appealing to more voters and getting more people to vote for us. That would be the normal reaction. That would be the pro-democracy reaction. Not enough, we didn't convince enough people. Let's be better at convincing people to vote for us. No, they think we can win next time by better working to take the election, even when we don't win it, using different techniques or being better with the techniques that we used in 2022, but we just didn't do enough of. So with a midterm 2022 win, they would be far better to carry out that upending of democracy in 2024. That's a very dangerous thing. Secondly, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, and others in that cohort have said, if we win in 2022, we're going to investigate Joe Biden. We're going to investigate Hunter Biden, who has nothing to do with the administration. We will end the January 6th committee if it's still going on. We will impeach Joe Biden, and on and on and on. They've said that that's what they're going to do. Disaster. And thirdly, they've said if they win, they will quickly work to help the Trump rioters avoid consequences to any extent that they can, effectively rewarding the rioters for what they did on January 6th of 2021. Now, in response to this, Nancy Pelosi, who I am not a fan of, Nancy Pelosi recently said, quote, "It is absolutely essential for our democracy that we win. I fear for our democracy if the Republicans were ever to get the gavel. We can't let that happen." And some people are like, oh, she's being hyperbolic. But remember that Canadian political scientist Thomas Homer Dixon, who we interviewed recently, he also wrote and explained to us during the interview that the United States could be under a right-wing dictatorship by 2030. And when I asked him, well, talk to us about the sequence. What are the initial steps? And the precursor steps to a right-wing dictatorship in 2030 include Trump winning in 2024. And a precursor to that would, of course, be Republicans taking the House in 2022. So the stakes are absolutely huge. And if we just say what's most likely, I'm not saying throw in the towel. I'm not saying don't try. If anything, what I'm saying is we've got to try. The more likely outcome, even though Nancy Pelosi won't admit it, is that Republicans take the House in 2022. If nothing significant changes, Republicans only have to flip 5 seats, remember, to take control of the House in November. That's the most likely outcome, that they are able to flip at least 5 seats. It is a very small margin of error for Democrats. Now, the other aspect to all of this is, of course, is the Department of Justice going to act at all to show that what took place in 2020 simply cannot happen again and truly hold people accountable? I have no emotional investment in Merrick Garland one way or the other, but it's increasingly looking like Merrick Garland is sort of spineless. And we're going to talk later. Trump is again asking Putin to help him find dirt on people. This time, Hunter Biden. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But it doesn't seem Merrick Garland wants to do anything. We've got these Manhattan investigators who resigned, including Mark Pomerantz, saying, we had good evidence that Trump committed crimes. If we tried some of these cases, we would likely win. But it doesn't seem any charges are coming there, and multiple prosecutors have resigned as a result. A federal judge recently said, and we talked about it earlier this week, it's pretty apparent that Donald Trump committed felonies, and yet, what? Nothing? The Department of Justice seems to be completely feckless, and you have to understand that this is bigger than just Merrick Garland. In general, number one, the checks and balances that we have are checks and balances, but they never accounted for someone like Trump. They just didn't. And we talked about this during the Trump era. And the federal bureaucracy in general has never really held presidents accountable in any serious way. So about 10 different things have to happen, including Democrats earning more votes, the DOJ taking this seriously. And unfortunately, it sort of seems like many Democrats are more willing to allow the possibility of democracy dying than to take the gloves off and saying, hey, you know what? We do have to do some unprecedented things, but that's because we've already had unprecedented circumstances. The Trump presidency was already unprecedented. And when that's the case, you might have to take unprecedented action. Very scary times ahead. And it is not hyperbolic to say that democracy is in peril. As yet another example of this, let's talk about yet another request from Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin. One of our sponsors is Blinkist, who's been supporting the David Pakman Show longer than any other sponsor. Blinkist is the app that lets you listen to or read an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. Blinkist is the way to absorb those books you can't make time for. Blinkist takes top nonfiction titles, pulls out the book's key takeaways and insights, and gives it to you in the form of a text or audio explainer that you can consume in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, now you actually do have time to learn about all the things you've been wanting to tackle. On the Blinkist app, I just listened to This Is Your Mind on Plants by the great Michael Pollan. Super interesting, the history of caffeine and so many other things. Blinkist has you covered on podcasts too. Blinkist takes long episodes of popular podcasts and distills them into audio you can listen to in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can become knowledgeable about so many different things. You can have conversations with people about more topics. Blinkist makes you more well-rounded. Try Blinkist for free and get 25% off a subscription. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. The link is down below.